Started. I'm Doug Carlston. I'm chairman of the board, and I'd like to, on behalf of the entire board, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. Thank you for coming. Now, what we usually do here is I talk a little bit about the history of the foundation and blather on for another 5 or 10 minutes so you can finish your food. Before that, however, I have a very, I have a presentation that I'd like to make. And I'd like to point out that it now says Carlston Family Foundation, so occasionally we do things that are rather family-oriented. This foundation was formed in order to encourage volunteer activities by the employees of Broderbund Software, a computer software company formed in the early 1980s by my brother Gary over there, my sister Kathy, and myself. There, Gary, that's all for you. And for years, basically, we took 3% of the profits of the company and put it in there and used it to encourage volunteer activities by our employees by donating to organizations that they worked as volunteers at and brought in. The family tradition continued. The company eventually did not. In 1998, it was sold. The new owners were very upset that the Broderbund Foundation was stealing what was now their trademark, so we were forced to change the name. And we decided to name it after ourselves. Since that had never occurred to us when we started the software company. This was all made possible, of course, by the fact that we had two remarkable parents who made it possible for 3 of their kids to start a business in an area about which none of them knew anything, and for it to grow and prosper. And so tonight, we'd like to have them recognized for their years on the board here, but more importantly to some of us for having us in the first place. So Chuck and Alice Carlston are in this corner. And rather than have you walk all the way up here, Tim is going to bring over a little plaque with some heartfelt sentiment on it, which I can't read because I already gave it to Tim. But just so you know that nepotism has not filled this room, I'd like those other than Chuck and Alice Carlston who are part of the Carlston, Williams, Calhoun family just to stand up for a moment. Would you please? Hey, Jordan, what about those cousins of yours standing next to you? They don't count? Let's make them stand up all by themselves. Okay. Thank you all. Now, there's a little more to the introductory speech, but I'll tell you a little bit about the current purpose of the foundation, which many of you know a lot about, and some of you have heard this speech 12 times before, for which I apologize. Basically, we decided that since those who did not go into starting software companies were all teachers, that what we really wanted to honor was, I think, the most unsung profession that has the most impact in this country, and that we'd find a way to reward it that would make sense to people who are in the teaching profession, who notoriously only really care about their kids. So we decided that we would pick the economically poorest schools in the state, not always, but mostly, and find young men and women who had excelled professionally despite relatively impoverished backgrounds and asked them what the factors were that led to their academic success. And not to our surprise, frequently it was a teacher who helped them address issues of family violence, of drugs, of gangs in the area and so forth, or maybe just help them get their heads on straight and understand what it was they were capable of. And so when we found somebody who had such a starry-eyed view of one of their former teachers, we tried to triangulate on them and see if it was in fact a general phenomenon, if they had many such former students who would speak equally about them. And guess what? We did, and we found people like that time and time again who had done such an extraordinary job that we worried that perhaps not all the former students who had benefited from this had taken the time to go back and tell them what an extraordinary job they had done. Frequently they do, but often they're off having their own lives. And so we created a situation where they could come here tonight and talk a little bit about what their lives had been like and what that teacher had done to set them on the path that they're enjoying right now. And this is not Queen for a Day, but it sometimes has elements of that. But there's a very serious purpose, and the serious purpose was to make sure that those who are making such a huge difference to so many people know just exactly how deeply they are valued by all of us. So that's the purpose tonight. Now, the foundation has changed a little bit recently. The teachers have always been invited back after the first year, and there was some interest in using their skills and their knowledge to try to have an impact on policy in California, in our state, but also to affect the process by which people choose the teaching profession so they understand what it takes, particularly when teaching in schools where the going isn't always very easy. And so in recent years, the teachers have self-organized a symposium. You had one today, where things that are of deep interest and importance to you are discussed amongst yourselves, and where we try, where possible, to come up with a written understanding of the outcomes in a way that can be used more broadly than our own immediate community. I think that has proven quite successful, and I think that your voices are, in fact, being heard more loudly than before, and we're hoping that more and more people are coming to appreciate the special qualities that so many of you bring to the teaching profession. So that's the other half, and we're deeply appreciative of all of you for what you have done in the past. And I only hope that, I realize that occasionally we have to hear about somebody retiring or stepping back, and it's okay as long as you're older than I am. But we really appreciate the many years of hard work that you've all put in. Okay, so we're going to go right into now the meat and potatoes of our talk. There's a couple things that we're going to do before we ask for our first nominee to speak to you. First of all, I should warn all the 5 new honorees. There's a nasty rumor spreading that these awards, which was, as you know, $20,000, $15,000 for you and $15,000 for your school as you designate, are tax-free, and that's completely untrue. And I don't want any of you getting locked up by the IRS because you saw that on the internet and believed it was true. Okay. I think that's, however, all the business we have to cover. And so we're going to have a member of the board introduce each nominator. And we're going to start with Arun Ramanathan, who is here to introduce Gustavo Garcia.
Thank you. So this is an awesome pleasure because I get to introduce a really, really great guy. I got a chance to interview him earlier, Gustavo Garcia. He is a junior at Stanford, and he's studying bioengineering. So when he said bioengineering, I had no idea what that was. So of course I asked him to explain it, and his explanation was actually really difficult to understand, which means he's much smarter than I am. So this is what I got. It's using and manipulating biology to solve real-world problems like tissue regeneration. So that's the first awesome thing about him. The second thing is, he started in biology, but he realized it was too boring. Just kidding. Because he said that if I started in biology, I was worried that I was going to end up in academia for the rest of my career. Sorry for all those in academia. But he said, I wanted a path with multiple possibilities where I could do new and innovative things, and he said, where I can always get a job, which was the most important thing. So that's why he's now in bioengineering. And then the third really cool thing about him is that he's a member of Gamma Zeta Alpha, and if you see, he's got a chain on his neck. So that's what that means. And this is an academic fraternity, not a beer-drinking fraternity. Just want to be clear with everybody about that. And the focus, as opposed to beer drinking, is getting more Latino students in college and through college. I'm sure you can give a better explanation than that, Gustavo. Okay. And then lastly, I asked him, tell me something that nobody else knows about you, at least nobody in this room. And he said, I am learning Japanese. And he is going to Kyoto in the spring, and he may stick there throughout the summer, working on bioengineering. And he may do part of his speech tonight in Japanese. So, with that, I would like to introduce Gustavo Garcia.
Hello, everyone. So, my name is Gustavo Garcia, and so my mother was an immigrant to this country from Mexico, and so she immigrated to this country when she was pregnant with me, and I grew up with her and my stepfather, and so my stepfather was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and so around the time when I was 4 and my mom was pregnant with my brother, we moved out with my stepfather and lived with my aunt for the rest of my life. So no one from my family has ever gone to college. I'm the first member of my family to go to college. And I feel like I contribute most of my success to my mother pushing me always to strive for academics. And so that's always been really important to me. And then when I was in high school, I had Mr. Barbarena as my sophomore year AP chemistry teacher. And so he's one of the best teachers I've ever had. And the reason I believe so is because I honestly feel that in low-income communities, the biggest problem that we face is that there's a lack of hope in our communities. Many people don't believe that we can go to college, deserve to go to college, because we don't see it around us. We don't know people who motivate us to do these things. And so what made Mr. Barbarena such an incredible teacher was that he truly believed in his students, and it showed from his work. He put in so much extra time that he didn't need to help his students. He would stay constantly after school to help students who were struggling in class. I remember him coming to school on weekends for having test prep with us, practice tests, and then he'd also come to school early and we'd go in early for labs. And it was always, you could just see to him how much it meant, and that pushed us to work harder and to strive for more. And that's why I think Mr. Barbarena was such a great teacher.
Invite him to come up.
Mr. Barbarena.
Good evening, and thank you. I was mentioning to Ron, I'm pretty shy. So my students, when they hear that, they're surprised that I am a teacher, because I have to stand every day in front of them and do what we as teachers do. But I am honored to receive this award, and also once I found out about the award, as I posted on Facebook, because I didn't know who had nominated me, I knew that there were a group of students that had done it, so I wanted to announce it so that they knew about it, even if I didn't know who it was. And one of the things that I told them was that I count them as a blessing in my life. I'm not sure that they realize how much I gained from being their teacher and how much I learned from them. I know that some of the things that I do in my class and has been from direct comments and feedback that they had given to me about things that they thought I could improve, things that they thought I could change. And I've gotten to where I am because of them and so many other people that I guess I'll briefly mention. I had amazing teachers just like them. That's one of the notes that I put on my Facebook post when I found out about the award. My elementary school teachers, they're people that I kept visiting all through my college years, and even once I became a teacher. My high school teachers were really, really amazing people. And part of the work that I do is also to honor their work and the commitment that they made to my life. But I also want to thank my family who's here with me, my mom who, even though she didn't have a complete formal education, she was a teacher in many ways, and she supported us and she helped us get through high school and helped me become the first person in my family to go to college and now have my career. And then after that, I know that my sister continued, who's here also with me, and my nieces are now going to college, and my nephew. So education has changed our lives greatly, and that's what I hope for my students. And I know that that's what it's doing, as you can see here with Gustavo, who's an amazing student. I think with or without me, and sometimes as it happens, even in spite of us, when things don't work well, I know that he's going to do great things. Also, Celeste, who's here, another of my former students, I know they're going to do amazing things, just like a lot of the former students I keep in touch with. They're doing so great now. So thank you. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you to the Carlston Family Foundation for the recognition as well.